What is up, guys? It is Ecos and I'm back here with another Unity Devlog video, and today I'm going to go over what I've done on the Dark Realm over the past week. But before we get started, for those who are new to this devlog series, first I recommend you go and check out the past devlogs on the Dark Realm, but also let me tell you what this game is about. The Dark Realm is a 2D side-scroller about a normal man named Jake, who was taken by this mysterious entity. After being attacked by the entity, he woke up in this place that seemed like home, but really it was a living hell. While Jake was living this nightmare, in reality he was in a coma. Jake didn't know this, but he knew his only goals were to escape, figure out what happened to him, and why he was living this nightmare. Now without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the video. Now if you guys didn't know, for the past month and a half or so, I've been on a break from game dev in general, just trying to get my head straight and really just trying to get my motivation back. But after I decided to come back from my break, I hopped inside of my project, but I had no idea where to start. So I opened up Notion to see where I'd left off, what tasks were completed, and what needed to get done. And after figuring that out, I wanted to take some time and plan out a work schedule for myself, as I don't want to continuously burn out and take long breaks like I have recently. First, I really needed to figure out the source of why I was burning out, so after thinking about it, I realized that I was just simply working myself too hard. After a burnout and a lot of procrastination, I would always jump straight back into development and work for continuous hours with minimal breaks for a long period of time, for honestly almost the entire day. I thought about it and I knew that this had to be put to a stop, or my motivation and my work ethic would suffer. I also knew that if this behavior continued, it would take so much longer to develop this game just because I was working too much. I decided to make myself a 9 to 5 work schedule. I decided to wake up around 7 a.m. then eat, then around 7:30 I would work out, and when I'm done with that I would shower, get dressed, give a little bit of free time to myself, and lastly at 9 a.m. I would begin my work until 5 a.m. with breaks for lunch and a few breathers in between, of course. I know I don't currently make money from making games, but I still want to give myself a work schedule to make myself treat it like a job and not a hobby, so I don't get lazy with it. But also, this schedule will improve my motivation, work ethic, and overall progress made on the game. Even though I may be working on the game for 8-ish hours and not 12 plus every day, I will get a lot more done this way, as I won't overwork myself and I won't get lazy. After getting all that settled, I hopped into Unity to get started working on the last thing I was working on before I took a break, which was the options menu. I had most of the options menu done, including the controls menu and some of the video options menu, but I still had a good bit of work to do before I was finished. I decided to begin working on the video options menu, so I looked at what I had already done and I saw that I only had the resolution drop down working. So I started following Bracky's options menu tutorial and I made a quality drop down, which really didn't make a big difference on the game for some reason, but I also made a full screen toggle. After getting everything working, I needed a way to save those values of the options whenever the player changed them. So again, even though they are by no means the best way to save things, I use player prefs to save the options whenever the player changed them and to load them whenever the player loaded up the game. The video options are simple, but it's all I need for now. Next, I needed to complete the audio option, so I began working on that. I used Unity's default UI slider to make a master volume slider, a music volume slider, and an SFX slider. I attempted to make my own slider art, but it didn't really work out too well, so I decided to just use the default sliders for now. Since in the game I will have various music and sound effects, I cannot just use the sliders on audio sources. I needed something that can control a group of things, and that's where Unity's audio mixer comes in. I made 3 different groups within the manager. The master volume channel, which is there by default, a music volume channel, and an SFX channel. After setting those up and exposing their variables, I went to Visual Studio to set up the code that would hook up the sliders to the audio mixer. The whole process took a little bit of setup, but code-wise it was very easy. When I was done and I had everything working, I of course needed a way to save and load the audio options, so I began working on that. This took longer than expected as I ran into a few issues, but it worked out in the end. After playing with the sliders for a bit, I started to realize that when changing the volume with the sliders, the volume change wasn't very smooth. I thought that it was something that I could do nothing about, but I decided to do some research on it anyways. I ended up finding out that this is because the slider's value range is linear and the audio mixer's value range is logarithmic. I also found a way to fix this issue, which took about 2 minutes to implement into my code, and I had a nice smooth audio option system. I ran into many bugs when setting up this entire options menu system, but I finally had a nicely working options menu that was simple but pretty effective. Besides the quality drop down, I still don't know what's up with that. After completing the options menu for the main menu, I wanted to move it all into the scene so the player could access it in game. But after playing around in the game a bit, I found a few things that I wanted to fix. The first issue was with the triggers that trigger the frame switches when the player runs into a different frame. I found that sometimes the player could stand pretty much in between each frame after a frame switch without triggering another one. I realized that this was due to the placement of the triggers, so I moved them around a bit and I had the system working properly again. I also realized that for some reason, a lot of the trees and foliage within the colored forest scene were simply misplaced and were on the wrong order and layer, so I quickly fixed that. The next bug I found had to do with the point lights inside of my dark living room scene. For some reason, the lights were creating a thick black line that I couldn't get rid of. I looked it up and I saw that it seemed to be a recurring issue with Unity 2019.2 and was fixed later in 2019.3. I didn't want to corrupt my project in any way though, so I decided to use a parametric light to simulate the look of the point light without actually using a point light. Obviously, the parametric light by default is not a circle, so I had to crank up the sides value, but after a bit of trial and error, I had the look I wanted without the black lines being there. Overall, this last week has definitely taught me a lot, not just about game dev, but about life and work too. I finally realized that I was just working myself too hard, and I needed to give myself a schedule so I could get good work done, but also stay sane. I'm hoping that over time I'll truly learn to not burn myself out and to give myself actual breaks even if I want to work. This week was definitely a big step up for me, and I hope that I can stay on this path. Of course, I'll need some longer week or so breaks occasionally, but those breaks shouldn't come from burnout and lack of motivation. Those breaks should come from wanting to give time to myself. But on that note, that's it for today, guys, so thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you're new to this channel, please go and hit that subscribe button. That'll be greatly appreciated. And I hope everyone's day has been going good. If it hasn't, then I hope this video helped. If it didn't, then I hope you guys can do something today that'll make it go good. And then you can reflect on today and say it's a good day. So yeah, I'm Z Codes. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next one. Peace.